starting off, I'll start off with the article, Zero Dark 30 and the Hunt for Bin Laden by Rob Berner, which talks about how the director, Catherine Bigelow, and the writer-producer came up with the follow-up to the Oscar Award movie, Hurt Locker. They discuss how they came up with the script for the movie. Some other things they discussed in the article, why they left Obama out of the movie, and how the shot of the film's climax, the raid on the compound, how they took different angles on that. Possible, they also talked about a particular representative, Mr. Peter King, and how some involvements started with that. Speaking of that, Mr. Representative Peter King, there was another article talking about the lawmaker calls on Pentagon to release reports on Zero Dark 30 probe about, which was by Mr. Adam Zagarin, which this Article 2, it leads to talks about Representative Peter King, who was the chairman of the House Committee on Homeland Security Subcommittee on Counterterrorism and Intelligence, who reacted to a Project on Government Oversight report and a long-running probe into a supposed leak that took place at a June 2011 event in which the screenwriter from the movie was in attendance. Now, when you talk about leaks, we can move on to our current presidential administration, the Obama administration, and the article amply titled "The Obama Administration and the Press" by Leonard Downing, which speaks of government leaks. Article 3 discusses the Obama administration's tight grip on what's allowed to be released to the press, and it's such a tight grip to the point to where sources that the press normally rely on are afraid to pass out any information under the Obama administration. There have been more felony criminal investigations in the Obama administration than any of the previous U.S. administrations, to include the now well-known Edward Snowden, under which is now called the 1917 Espionage Act. Also, the Inside Threat Program, which was implemented to prevent leaks, has already created internal surveillance, heightened a degree of paranoia in the government, and made people conscious of contact with public advocates and the press. Which leads on to why we're speaking of the espionage. I'm trying to make this quickly because I don't want to get caught. Speaking on espionage, the next article talks about U.S. Congress passes the Espionage Act, which is basically by the History Channel. Now, the Article 4 talks about the discussion of the U.S. Congress passing the Espionage Act in 1917. The act made it a crime for any person to convey information intended to interfere with the U.S. armed forces, prosecution of a war effort, or to promote the success of our country's enemies. The article also discusses how a former pacifist, who turned into now become an attorney general, employed the Espionage Act to persecute left-wing political figures, and he did this with the help of one J. Edgar Hoover. Now, speaking of J. Edgar Hoover, the next article was basically entitled J. Edgar Hoover, which is the biography, which was basically by the Biography Channel. This last article discusses the life and rise of the founder of the FBI. The article also discusses some of Hoover's controversial methods, to include, illegal burglaries, illegal wiretaps, planted evidence, and basically a lot of that stuff ultimately tainted his legacy. As a director, though, moving on to other things, as a director of the Bureau of Investigation, as it was originally called, in the 1930s, Hoover became a national hero after getting exploits against notorious gangsters like the infamous John Dillinger, which led to an expansion of power for the Bureau and the birth of the Federal Bureau of Investigation as they expanded to be a nationwide organization back in 1935. I'm going to go ahead and let this go because I don't want nobody in the environment that I'm in. I don't want nobody to come up and get me for any acts of treason or espionage. So here's my report to you, Mr. Lincoln. Hopefully this will be something good use for you later on.